All right, in this explainer, we are diving into a really powerful idea. It's all about how you can shift your life from what feels like a constant battle to a state of, well, effortless ease. We're talking about moving from force to flow, and we're going to break down exactly how to start doing it.
You know that feeling? Like every single achievement requires this monumental struggle. You're constantly pushing a boulder uphill. You get it to the top, and then it just rolls right back down. It's so common. But what if there's a totally different way to operate? Well, that's where this concept called reality transurfing comes into the picture. It gives us a real alternative to that whole grind and struggle mindset. So we're going to unpack this philosophy and two of its most practical techniques, something called frailing for your interactions and coordination of intention for when life throws you those inevitable curveballs.
So, what even is reality transurfing? At its core, it's a model that says reality has infinite possible scenarios. Think of them as lifelines. And instead of using brute force to make one happen, you can actually learn to choose the one you want just by aligning your thoughts and your energy with it. See the shift? It's not about forcing an outcome. It's about selecting it.
Okay, to really get how this works, we first have to understand a key distinction. This is the foundation for the entire philosophy, and it's all about the difference between two types of intention.
So on one side, you've got inner intention. This is what we're all familiar with, right? It's your personal willpower, the direct effort, the hustle, the grind you apply to make something happen. It's your resolve to do. But on the other side, we have outer intention. This is totally different. It's the resolve to have. It's not about pushing harder, but about aligning yourself so that reality itself seems to work with you to bring your goal to life.
So the big question is, how do we actually tap into that outer intention? Well, the first practical technique we're going to look at is called frailing, and it's an incredibly powerful way to apply this whole idea to our day-to-day interactions with other people.
Frailing is basically a strategy for creating harmony in your relationships. Instead of seeing people as obstacles you have to overcome with your own willpower, you actively look for ways to align with their intentions. It's a perfect example of shifting from force to flow, but in your social and professional life.
Yeah, it really just boils down to this. You're engineering a win-win. Just think about it for a second. When you stop trying to bend someone to your will, and instead you genuinely try to help them get what they want, you're not a threat anymore, are you? You become an ally. And that's when all that resistance just melts away, and people naturally want to help you back.
So how do you actually do this? It breaks down into three pretty simple steps. First, just take a second to really understand what drives the people you're interacting with. What do they really want? Next, when you pitch an idea, frame it in a way that shows them how it helps them get what they want. And third, and this is absolutely crucial, you have to be sincere. People can smell inauthenticity a mile away, and it will totally kill the flow.
So, frailing helps you navigate your relationships. But what about when life itself just, happens? That's where our second technique comes in. It's called coordination of intention.
Coordination of intention is a really powerful mental reframing tool, and the practice is simple, though not always easy. Whatever happens, you make a conscious choice to see it as a positive development that's moving you toward your goal. This isn't about toxic positivity or pretending to be happy. It's about deciding not to fight what's already happening.
Think of it like this. You're sailing down a river. Instead of getting angry that the current has suddenly shifted and fighting against it, you just adjust your sails. You trust that this unexpected turn is actually guiding you to an even better outcome. You stop resisting and you start coordinating.
Let's use a super common frustration. You're running for the bus, but the doors hiss shut right in your face and it pulls away. The typical reaction? Anger, right? You feel unlucky, you see it as a setback, and suddenly your whole day is off to a bad start.
But with coordination, you immediately reframe it. In your head, you say, good, this is for my benefit. This delay is actually putting me on a better lifeline. By doing this, you stop radiating all that negative energy of frustration. You stay open to the possibility that this little detour is actually leading you somewhere better.
Now, as powerful as these techniques sound, it's so important to look at this philosophy from all angles. Transurfing has some pretty significant criticisms, and there's one in particular you really need to understand before you dive in headfirst. One of the sharpest criticisms is that the system is what's called unfalsifiable. That's just a fancy word that means it's designed in a way that it can never be proven wrong. And this can create a really challenging psychological loop for anyone trying to practice it.
Let me break that down. Critics argue that when these techniques don't work, the failure is always blamed on the person trying them. Oh, you didn't reduce importance enough, or your thoughts weren't pure. This creates a vicious cycle of self-blame, where the person starts to feel responsible for every single negative thing that happens. It ends up protecting the ideology, but at a real psychological cost to the user. It's a key thing to keep in mind.
So, with all of this in mind, the good and the potentially tricky, what's the ultimate takeaway here? How do we bring all these concepts together?
The central theme running through everything is a fundamental shift in perspective. It's about moving away from that deep-seated belief that you have to grind and force your way to success, and instead embracing the idea that by mastering your inner world, you can actually begin to choose your outer reality.
And that leaves us with one final question for you to think about. In your own life, how often are you just reacting, just following a script laid out by your circumstances? And what might change if you started to believe, even just a little, that you have the power to consciously choose a different one?